Yo, can everybody hear me? Testing, testing. All right. We have our guest in the back. I will put him on shortly. Let me get my intro out the way because we may be pressed for time. So, what's going on, everybody? This is Chris Classic, and this is another episode of the Take It Home podcast. I told you guys that I was going to do a lot more interviews with a lot of wrestlers and people that I respect, and things like that, to talk about the business and things like and everything. So before anything, make sure you subscribe to the Take It Home podcast channel. Also subscribe to the C3 Ultimate Wrestling YouTube channel. Me and my wife's professional wrestling company. It's going to be so dope. And things that I have going on is this weekend is Roper Mania in Midlothian. I don't have a flyer for it, but I will get it as soon as possible. Then next week in Appleton, I return back to Now That's Wrestling for We Are Legion. It's been a while. I think last time I was in Wisconsin, it was in May. So I'm glad to be back with people that I consider family. And then also for what I have is C3 Ultimate Wrestling, our last show of the year, The Amazing World. A new champ will be crowned. The main event is a battle royal. Hold on, mama. Main event is a battle royal. Last person standing will be the new C3 Ultimate Wrestling channel. Unfortunately, Just Amazing had to vacate the title due to injuries and everything. So, and we already announced a couple days ago, it's going to be a C3 Ultimate Wrestling tag team match with the tag champions Legit versus the Spirit of Detroit, who has reunited. Stop, mama. So it will be a great show. All right, so let me set everything up. Show sponsored by Limelight Comics and Penny Young Expressions presents a penny for your thoughts. Cookies and comic books, two things that I do like being around from time to time. So here we go. Limelight. Shout out to them and everything they continue to do. And a penny for your thoughts, sweets for your soul. All right, I'm going to add my guest, and I'm going to let him, introduce himself, and then we will get to the nitty gritty. So,
what's going on, Classic?
What's up, man?
Not much, brother. It is the shot caller, Backwoods Brown, live and in the building, sir.
Yes, sir. I am glad to have you as a guest for the show.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate the invite, man. You know, you and I go way back, brother.
Yeah, I feel old because you said way back, but yeah.
Hey, you don't feel as old as me, brother. I hit 17 years in the wrestling business this past June, so
yeah.
You don't feel as old as I.
Nah. I got you. But no, it's always an honor. And the thing is, I asked you yesterday, and you was down for it. So I'm even grateful for the opportunity to speak with you about a couple things with the business, how you got started, and things that you have going on in the future. So I'm definitely honored that you took the interview. So,
hey man, anytime, dude. You know you are and I know you try to keep it PG on the podcast, so I'm gonna try my hardest to.
Okay.
You know me, man. I'm a straight shooter, but
okay.
You are one of the few people in wrestling that I've met that is just a full blown, true and genuine person. So, like I told you last month when we were on the show together.
Yeah.
I'm always down to help and give knowledge and do whatever.
Respect, man. It's not about me, man. It's about you today, sir.
Man. Nobody wants to hear from me or hear about me. I am the shits, as we say in the wrestling business.
I don't know what you mean. See, Red, he's already in the chat. He said, "Sup, bro?" So,
what up, Red? So, before we get into the whole interview, like Red, honestly, man, God's honest truth was one of the first people when I broke in to to see something in me and believe in me, because I had been a fan of C Red for a while before I broke in, because I was a Windy City Pro Wrestling fan, and I watched Windy City on public access TV in Chicago. So when I broke in, and for me especially, like being able to see representation, like especially locally on the indie scene of people that look like me, it was real cool when Red, took the time and said, "Hey man, I see something in you," and took me under his wing and put me in the VIP family. And anybody that knows C Red from Chicago, there's always extensions of C Red in Windy City, whether it be the Soul Touchers, Team Damn It, VIP family. It was just one big faction. So for him to throw that open invitation out to me, being less than a year in, like the first time I met Red, I think I had been in the business for maybe 6-7 months, maybe 6 months, if that, maybe less than that. And he saw something in me, because I was always, when I broke in and I was training, I was always the example guy, because I was the guy that in practice I picked everything up really fast, because this was always a passion of mine. Ever since I was like 4 years old, I knew I wanted to be a pro wrestler. So getting in the ring was like taking my first steps as a kid. It was something that I picked up right away. So Red took an interest in me right away, and took me under his wing. And Red was the first person to give me my first out of state booking, and God's honest truth, C Red is one of my closest friends inside of wrestling and outside of wrestling. Like I had been to Red's house a million times. Like Red and I, it got to the point where me and C Red were hanging out maybe like 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
Red knew my mom, and like C Red used to run a fed called Bible Pro Wrestling, where we would wrestle out stories of the Bible.
Yeah.
And Red would book me on these shows. And one show we did, it was maybe literally like 5 minutes from my house in the city of Chicago. And it was in the middle of summer, super, super hot. And my mom was a Chicago police officer, and she knew I had a show. And without me asking or saying anything, when she got off work, she stopped and got a cooler and filled it full of waters and Gatorades for all the boys and me, and she brought it to the show. Like, that was the type of person my mom was. Like, Red would come over to our house for Sunday dinner, and my mom would cook for everybody. Like, so C Red is truly and genuinely like one of my absolute favorite people in all of pro wrestling.
Yeah, that's my brother. I love that guy too. Like you said, he opens up his heart to people, and that's in wrestling, a lot of people don't do that kind of thing, and you can tell that he wants what's best for people. And if something is bad, he calls them out. But he's always been a graceful person. He's always given back to the business. A big thing that a lot of people who have so much time in the business refuse to do or want to be paid to do it, and he does it for free.
Absolutely.
And, I talk to him a lot about anything, wrestling, life. I could call him and we can talk all day about anything. We pray for each other. We talk about stuff. Like my youngest son, Cam, he would ask for him to pray for him, and my son would know to put his hand on him and actually try to do a prayer for him and things like that. That's C Red's family. And he says, stop. Y'all got me tearing up. But I mean, you truly are family, to a lot of people. You've opened your heart and the wrestling to a lot of people. You've given people opportunities and things like that, for even things like this to happen. Like, no one has anything bad to say about you. So, people say giving people flowers and things like that. We want to give you the acknowledgement and the respect that you rightfully deserve. So
yeah, I'm always give Red his flowers, and that's why, like, it was so special to me not last year, but the year before, I had an opportunity. I was looking for a new manager at GLCW where I had been champion for a while. I had the opportunity to bring Red in, and Red got to manage me for a couple shows. And honestly, Red got to manage me for the biggest show of the year for GLCW and one of the biggest indie shows in the Midwest at Blizzard Brawl. And it was nice for me to be able to give Red the opportunity to be able to scratch that off his bucket list, for him to come out at Blizzard Brawl in front of a couple thousand people, be out there with me in a match against Val Venus, and we got the dub because
Yeah.
Backwoods don't lose. Backwoods don't lose, and have Red in my corner. It was it was special. It was almost one of those full circle moments. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, see, Ray, we're gonna always give you your love here. I know he's saying, it is just an interview, but we're gonna give you your love. Hold on, let me see, because I got feedback on my thing. Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
So you said that you knew you wanted to wrestle since you were 4 years old. So that was like one of my first questions I usually start with. But what was the match that made you want to become a professional wrestler?
I don't know if it was one particular match. To be honest with you, Chris, it was always a tradition in my house. I'm the youngest of 5 boys, so it was always one of those things where we were either watching on Saturday, we were either watching wrestling or the boxing pay per view.
Okay.
And then on Sundays we watched the wrestling pay per view. For me, like if I had to break it down to like an earliest memory, the earliest memory I have maybe was watching WrestleMania 6 when I was 3 years old, sitting on my dad's lap, and everybody being around, crowded in our little house in Chicago, watching WrestleMania. But for me, the earliest memories like I fully have is Saturday nights watching, NWA / WCW on TBS on Saturday nights, and then flipping over and watching Saturday night's main event.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good, because sometimes a lot of people, they know exactly what match or the first thing like with that and things like that. But to like hear that it was a family tradition, that's always something that's going to be like a great thing to look back on and love. Like I started looking at wrestling because we didn't have cable at my house, but when I went to my great grandparents' house, wrestling was on and WCW was coming on, and I didn't know anything about wrestling, and that was it. It was solid. And I remember Booker T, and I remember you just said a few minutes ago about representation and things like that. Me being a young kid, I wasn't thinking about it as big as that was. I just saw that this was this black guy or whatever like that was doing the spinneroonie and things like that, and he was wrestling with his brother Stevie Ray, and I was like, oh my God, like this is awesome. I didn't think that I wanted to be a part of the business, and I didn't. I knew that I was going to be a fan forever. So.
Yeah, I mean, I knew right away, because even at that point, being tiny, I remember seeing like some black wrestlers, but not a whole lot. I mean, I vividly remember being a kid and watching Ron Simmons win the WCW World Heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was always just I love the larger than life aspect of pro wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm a diehard comic book fan. My mom got me into comics when I was a kid because she wanted me to read, and she thought comics were the best way to get me to be able to read. So I remember watching pro wrestling, like, man, these guys are like superheroes in real life. You know what I'm saying? So it was always something that I gravitated to at a real young age and never grew out of. And a lot of people know this, and some people might not, but Dusty Rhodes is my all-time favorite professional wrestler. And I remember growing up, and as I got older, going back, because for me, like my tradition when I was a little kid, I used to do martial arts when I was a kid, and every Saturday after martial arts practice, I would have my mom take me to Blockbuster, and I would get maybe like 4 or 5 wrestling tapes from Blockbuster. So I grew up every Saturday watching wrestling tapes, and I watched a lot of wrestling tapes that had Dusty on them. And you know, people look at me now and my stature. I wasn't a heavy set kid when I was younger. I didn't get heavy set until I was older. But it was something about Dusty and his connection that he had with the people that really drew me in. I was always one of those guys that was really drawn into guys that were able to connect with the people, like Dusty and Hogan. You know, like Hogan wasn't the best wrestler, but he was able to draw the people into whatever he was doing. And Dusty was able to draw the people into what he was doing, but Dusty was still a damn good worker.
Yeah.
You know, so that was when I started breaking into wrestling, I always wanted to have that in the back of my mind, the relatability to everyday regular people. You know, I always wanted to be somebody that the crowd could look at and say, well, he kind of looks like just the average person I see on the streets. Like, granted, I'm a lot taller and bigger than most people you see on the street, but I still have that appeal and relatability to the average person that, okay, he looks like me, and well, if he can do it, I can do it. This is somebody I want to get behind. And pretty much all my career, except for a short period of time that you know about, I was always Backwoods. I mean, there's a short, small period in time where I was the juggernaut, which it didn't work, didn't get over because I couldn't buy into that character because even though I was using my real name, it didn't really relate to who I was. Like you talk about Backwoods. I know Backwoods like the back of my hand. I know what makes Backwoods go. I know what motivates Backwoods. I know what Backwoods is all about, especially now at this point in my wrestling career. Now Backwoods he's a prize fighter, man. I show up for main events. I show up for marquee matches. I show up to fight, and I show up for the money, and I show up to win championships.
Yeah. I remember the Juggernaut.
Yeah, I know you do.
I remember it. I was shocked that the hair was gone. I was like, "Oh God, this is a new leaf." So yeah, I was there. I mean, you was always cool anyway. It didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely understand, especially trying to do things different or trying to, test things out. Sometimes things work, sometimes things do not. It's just a part of the business, but it's just like, even you saying like holding yourself accountable for certain things instead of what I'm seeing now is that people will actually turn around and be mad at the fans for not understanding their vision. And it's like, it doesn't work that way,
It doesn't. It doesn't. If I can't buy into the character and what I'm trying to portray, I can't get mad at the fans for not buying into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and at that point, when I switched to the Juggernaut, for me, at that point in my career, I felt like things had kind of been stagnant and stale. So, I was like, well, let's change it up. And I was doing the Juggernaut, and then I had a promotion reach out to me that I had worked for a while. Then I stopped working for, and they wanted to bring me back. And I was like, well, do you want Backwoods or do you want, the Juggernaut? And they were like, no, we want Backwoods. And then that's when that that switch for a little bit clicked for me, and I was like, okay, if they want Backwoods, who is Backwoods? Because honestly, I'll be 100% honest and transparent with you. Like, I had kind of lost my confidence in Mojo. Like, I didn't really think I had a grasp or a full concept of what wrestling was and what was expected of me as a pro wrestler. And then when I did that, when that promotion reached out to me and they said they wanted Backwoods, that's when I really started to think and say, well, Backwoods, well, who is Backwoods? Like, what drives them and what motivates them? And then that's when the wheel started turning. And then it was a few years after that where, like, I really started to gain my confidence and get my mojo, and I started doing shows on a super consistent basis. And then I was like, well, damn, I like Backwoods is great, but I wanted something extra to add to them. And then that's when I came up with the shot caller moniker. The whole shot caller thing was something that just fully came up out of the blue one day when I was just driving in my car, and I was thinking and thinking and thinking. And then I was like, man, what's a good tagline that represents how I look at myself in pro wrestling? And that's where the whole shot caller thing came about. And then now it's progressed even more to where the shot caller is just, it's not a cute tagline. Being the shot caller is a full-blown state of mind. Like, now for me being the shot caller, having that tagline to me adds importance, because, well, if I'm going to call myself this, then there's a certain thing I have to represent. If you're just average Joe Blow, the shits, you can't go around calling yourself a shot caller. Like, being a shot caller means, like, you got to be able to deliver on a night in, night out basis. So once I started adding that tagline, I put it in my mind, like, well, dude, I got to go out there and deliver and be the absolute very best version of myself that I can be.
Yeah. And see, and that's why, like, I could talk to you for hours about these kind of things, because a lot of people have nicknames and monikers they go by, and it's the opposite of what they are and what they represent and things like that,
Yeah.
And not sometimes it takes people years to try to find it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm here to say that that's okay. I think a lot of people do try to rush things because they're trying to hurry up and do it. And sometimes failure can be your biggest teacher.
Yeah.
So that is one of those important things to think about, because I didn't start off as Classic Alpha,
Yeah.
It's Chris Classic. And then eventually I was Classic Alpha. And then now I still try to find things that can help me with that. Okay, it's an extension of myself, but what can I do different from everybody else? I'm not the first wrestler that comes out with a cape. And then even some wrestlers weren't even heroes with a cape. That was just the standard to come out to. So what do you do different? So that is a gem that I respect, that you even said that, like, sometimes it does take time, and sometimes people take hours, days, years of trying to find what they want to do and how they want to do it and how to execute it. It's just one of those things in wrestling, and sometimes it does take time. So
it does, man. Like, even now, like, the whole Backwoods persona, like, the way I present myself now, that wasn't something that was just overnight. I'm always, like, it's always been a gradual progression. Like, I'm always adding things to it. Like, the swagger I walk to the ring with. When I started calling myself the shot caller, I didn't have that. That took time for me to think about, and, like, well, I'm looking at myself at this level. Like, I need to walk to the ring with a certain pizzazz, a certain je ne sais quoi, as some people would say. Like it needs that extra little stamp on the presentation. But now it's to the point where it's like, it's easy for me to flip the switch from being who I am in real life to being Backwoods. Like, dude, you can ask a million people. I can be behind the curtain right before my match, and I'm yawning and this, that, and the other. But the second I hear that music, I flip the switch, and then I go right in the second my hand touches the curtain, I go right in the backwoods mode. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I know how I want to present myself, how I want to present the character, how I want to go out there and deliver in the ring. Like, I can't go out there and be anything other than that, because it's gotten to the point where I've built that expectation within myself to what I want to represent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that when your music hits, man, like it don't matter what, if you hurt or anything, it goes away. It's like, hey, weren't you limping? Oh, I'm not limping now. I'm different. I'm in game mode. So that's always a good thing. We do have some comments. David has a question about who is your dream opponent, but I'm going to wait a little later to do that because that's usually like one of the final questions I ask. Willie says, "What's up, old man?"
What is up, Willie? So Willie the Bomb is one of the people that was a teacher and inspiration for me when I started wrestling. Willie was the second main event match I've ever had in my entire life, and God's honest truth, I was super nervous and super scared. I was maybe like 8 months into the business, and they said, "Oh, you're going to main event with Willie the Bomb." And I was like, okay. Me and Willie talked about the match, laid out a really good match, and then we get out there, and things don't go the way we laid it out. And at one point, and I will never forget this, we're outside brawling. Willie whipped me into the wall, and I wanted to make such a good impression. I hit the wall extra hard and messed up my elbow. And my elbow instantly swelled up. It was like the size of a grapefruit right away. I'm like, man, we got like maybe 10 minutes left in this match. We go out there, work the match, and I've apologized to Willie for this a million times. Willie is the only person for their finish that I've ever moved on, because at the time Willie was using the top rope leg drop, and I took a bump going into the leg drop, and my elbow was really killing me. And Willie came off for the leg drop, and I rolled and moved, and Willie hit the mat, and Willie was like, why did you move? I was like, my elbow hurts, bro. We got to call an audible. Give me the lariat. Give me the lariat. But I learned so much being in the ring with Willie. And after that, Willie and I had so many opportunities of being in the same locker room at different promotions and being on the road. And Willie's another one of those guys. Willie's been, when I was living in Chicago, Willie had been over to my house a million times, man, like for birthdays and family celebrations and cookouts, this, that, and the other. Like, I learned so much from Willie and just learned how to do business. Willie was the reason I got into PPW, because Willie put in a word for me. And Willie told Randy, like, man, Backwoods would be a really good fit for what we're doing here. So when it comes to Willie the Bomb, I hold Willie at such high standards and such high expectations. I would love to have one more go around, one more match with Willie the Bomb.
Yep. People, Willie coming back. Willie done came back. So it's possible it can happen. Willie is one of the most well-respected guys in the business. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Chris, you might be able to make that happen. C3 Wrestling.
Yeah, man. I got a lot of stuff I gotta write, man. I gotta get a whole board and start writing stuff down for the future, man.
Backwoods versus Willie the Bomb. I don't know if I don't know if Willie wants to work with me anymore, because as my career progressed, Willie used to tell me, he's like, you too stiff. I don't know if I want to work with you. and you've been in the ring with me lately. Like for me personally, I don't think I'm stiff. I just try to make everything as believable and realistic as possible.
I have no complaints.
And
I have
even
none.
and that goes as far as me giving offense and taking offense. Like when you and I worked, I told you, and I know you remember this. I was like, when we were talking about the match, I was like, what about some Kawada kicks?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was like, dude, just do them. Like, my thing is, I'll give it, and I have no problem taking it back in return.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun. I will say that. I have no complaints, and we definitely gotta bring it back, especially with the conditions that happened.
Yes,
And
I would
even
love to
when
be
we
able
talked, yeah, it was good. And to me, when they had fans literally waiting, and they would like stay in the rain to see it.
Yeah,
That just says just how devoted they are. And it was just like I had another show, but that was secondary to what we were doing because people were waiting for hours for this to happen.
yes.
So you get what I'm saying? So it's just like I'm grateful to God that we had ours done at least because a lot of people wanted to see that. And then even after the match, people I've never seen before, we love you, Alpha, and stuff like that. It's small stuff like that with big stuff that just you keep forever. You get
You
what I'm
do.
saying? So
Especially for me because I cut my teeth in Illinois and Chicago, and now it's to the point where I don't get to wrestle there a whole lot. So when I do get to come back, those shows are special for me. And as I told you that day, it's like I got to give the people something. Like they can't. I don't want to send these people home without at least giving them. It might not be able to be what I originally wanted to give them, but I want them to walk away with some presentation or some version of me.
yeah, people were happy about what we got to do, and even when Eric showed, he said, "Would you guys want a rematch? Leave a comment." Just a few people left rematch comments, so we definitely got to do something next year. So
yeah, we can run it back, man. Like I will. As I told you that day, I'll do it again with you gladly, man. Like and maybe we do it for C3 where people can get the full blown backwoods experience.
yeah, I got plans, man. I got plans, but got an Atlas. He said,
don't get me started on Atlas. I love Atlas to death, man. Atlas is another one of those guys that really took me under his wing and fully embraced me. Atlas was the first guy I worked on, like my first big show. And it was when we were working for VWAA. We had our 1 year anniversary show, and me and Atlas got to kick off the show. And being in the business, Chris, when you're opening match on a big show, you got to deliver. They gave us 15 minutes, and we went out there and beat the crap out of each other.
mm-hmm.
Atlas is another guy, outside of wrestling that I had a personal connection with. Been to my home, hung out. We've had meals together. Have a true, genuine bond and friendship. I still got heat with Atlas because at the time when we worked, I used to bring a bottle of Jack Daniels to the ring with me, and this was one of the few nights where it wasn't a work bottle of Jack Daniels; it was a shoot bottle of Jack Daniels. And I used to miss people with the Jack Daniels, and I bring the bottle of shoot Jack Daniels to the ring with me. Atlas takes a pull of it, and I'm laying on the match after finish. Atlas goes over and missed me right in the face with the Jack Daniels, and then pours Jack Daniels on my face. And I was like, man, what is going on? Like, I can't I can't breathe. I'm blown up because we just work and beat the hell out of each other. You know, I gave Atlas a German on the outside. He gave me an elbow off the ring apron. Like it's all, honestly one of my early favorite matches.
Yeah. Atlas is, when I faced him the first time, he was reality to me, if that makes sense. It was you might have been there at the show, I don't know.
I was at PBW.
Yeah. And when I was young then and I didn't understand. And then when I interviewed him a couple weeks ago, I had told him, because what I like to do is I like to acknowledge things and be real about certain things. Because I was still young and things like that, and I felt like things should go a certain way. I wasn't a brat backstage or anything like that, but I didn't understand certain things. And then the older I got, the more I started respecting the business, I understand why it went that way. Because I was upset, and I told him about that too. And that was the reality of it. Is the real things of things have to happen for a certain reason, you know?
Yeah.
And with Atlas, he's always like, he's part of the Take It Home podcast. Him and NC Red, like, they tell everybody insights of the business and things like that. And Atlas, he's straight to the point about it. He's not going to sugarcoat it and things like that. He's going to be honest about it. He doesn't need nobody to defend him. Like, he's 10 toes down on what he feels about certain things. And most of the time he's right. Because sometimes you got to think about it as longevity. Don't just think of the moment. What's going to happen down the line? You know, what you say now could mess it up. So it's always a good thing with Atlas. And, you know, I talk to him too. And, man, I love the guy. He don't love me back, but that's fine.
Yeah. Atlas is one of those dudes where it takes a lot to earn his respect and earn his admiration.
He says the Juggernaut did not hit that dude with a stick.
You did. Atlas was the one and only feud I had as the Juggernaut, and we will leave it at that because we've already spoken about how the Juggernaut didn't work and how I was not feeling being the Juggernaut.
Yeah. He also said Willie fears Atlas.
Maybe we can get a 3-way.
Yeah. And then Willie says, let me think about that. When you were saying running it back.
Willie, we got to run it back. You know, and Chris, I will do this impersonation and you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. Dude, it would be fucking great if we did that.
I know who that is. All right, I want to say big men in professional wrestling.
Yes.
How do you see them now in the landscape of not only just mainstream but independents? Do you think they're underutilized? Do you think that they're missing the plot on how a big man is supposed to work? What do you think?
It all depends on the company and the big guy. Some companies are, and this is from personal experience with like the bigger companies, from what I've gotten from the bigger like national TV companies. A lot of those companies now, they don't know how to use big guys because I get legit responses from these companies. Oh, well, we would look, you know, we'd like to use you, but either two separate responses. One big national company is, you're too big and we don't know what to do with you. And the other one is, you're too big, you're bigger than the guys we have on our roster.
Mm.
So for me personally, I can't go on TV and get a tryout match because it's not believable for me to job out to guys because I'm 2 times their size, which is a legit statement I've gotten from one of the companies. And the other company is, their company is all based around smaller guys and they don't know what to do with me. And God's honest truth, these are legit responses I've gotten from two separate, large national companies. For me, I think it's gotten to a point where you get some big guys now. They fall into to two categories where you get big guys that want to do too much, and then you get big guys that don't want to do enough. Or you get big guys that are lazy.
Mm-hmm.
The lazy big guys are the guys that just want to stand in the middle of the ring and have everybody come to them like it's, the old territory days. We're in the point of professional wrestling where it's not that anymore. For me personally, my mindset and my philosophy was I didn't get trained to learn how to work like a big guy, so I know how to work, So I have no problem moving, doing this, that, and the other. Some guys, they feel like, well, if they bump for a guy, I'm not protecting myself and it's making myself look bad. You can bump for somebody that's smaller than you as long as you build that bump up and it means something. Like, I'm to the point now where certain guys, I'll only bump once. But we've built that bump up so much to where it means something. So when I do finally take that bump, it's a huge thing. It's like, oh shit, they got the big dude off his feet. Oh, this is great. They go for the cover. 1, 2. I wait to the very last second for that kick out because we've built it up so much to where when I do come off my feet, it actually is solidified and it works.
You said one thing that I talk about a lot here on the show is believability. And what I see with some, not all, some big men in matches is, like you said, like going to the too much. They're doing what smaller guys do and things like that. And it's like, you're not, people think selling is just selling a move. No, you have to sell your size as well.
Yeah.
And I do think not all, but some of these bigger guys, they're doing what the smaller guys doing to either stay booked or to fit in and things like that. And to hear that it's just like you're not going to fold and you're going to do what you are because of who you are in psychology. That's always a commendable thing because we are living in a time where, and there's no offense to smaller guys or whatever like that. I was one before, but there's no offense to them, but it's just like, the guys to just be throwing around the big guy and it's no story. It's no building up to it. And Atlas talked about it as well, about as long as you build it up and things like that and make it make sense, the crowd will go crazy for it. But now people are just trying to lift up or pick up big guys out the gate,
Dude, I'm not taking the arm drag, 2 minutes into a match. Like, and it's not me being lazy or me not wanting to do it. That makes no sense. Why? I'm 365 pounds. Why am I letting this guy 210 pounds give me an arm drag and I go for it? Like, and honestly, man, it took me years to learn that because when I first started, I lock up with a guy, shoot me off, give me a back elbow, I'm taking a bump. And now you go back and think about it, it's like I'm not there. No.
Yeah.
You're not even whipping me off the ropes. Like what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think for a lot of big guys now, it's just they have to have that time and progression in wrestling to learn where to protect themselves and protect the business at.
Yeah. So, I look at my old stuff too. I'm like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Why did I agree to that? Or why did I even say let's do this and things like that? And it's like, I'm big on having like the big man, being the big man in matches and things like that, and having things with believability. So even having you here, I wanted to ask you that because
and you can be a big man and not and sell and not be lazy without taking a bump. Like, even nowadays, like I can work a match and sell, and I don't have to take a bump to sell. Like
Yeah.
I can put myself in peril, but psychology wise, I know how we can get there without me taking a bump. So we
Yeah.
saved that bump, and it means something. Now, don't get me wrong. Like there are certain guys I work where if they got a good size on them, I can take a bump and it's believable throughout the match where I'm not taking just one bump. But there, a lot of times I look at the guy, I'm like, man, if we just build up this one bump, it'll mean a whole lot more. You know what I'm saying? Like it's being able to look at your opponent and know the situation and match placement and psychology wise of when to put yourself in those positions and to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think, like, you brought up Hogan earlier. It's just like thinking how special him and Andre was. And I think how less special would have been if Hogan was throwing around Andre.
Exactly. Exactly.
How, people will probably remember it, but it wouldn't be like a monumental thing because he did it multiple times and things like
Yep.
that. And I'm not saying that you have to emulate that match, but that was great on the psychology part of the anticipation of, can Hogan even body slam this guy?
Yeah.
Even though he was body slammed a couple times before Andre, but the way they sold it, the way they pushed it and things like that, it worked.
Exactly.
I'll even say Goldberg and the Giant in WCW. I know people feel the same way about Goldberg now, but Goldberg didn't just physically just lift him up like
Yep.
that. They worked it. I don't know who was behind all of it, but they did a great job with doing that and also selling the Giant size because Paul White was doing like drop kicks and kip ups at the time as well. So, I only got a few more questions for you. What are your pet peeves in professional wrestling?
One of my biggest pet peeves are guys that are afraid to kick out on a one count. Like it drives me nuts where you watch a match and guys are 5 minutes in and they've done stuff but they haven't done a whole lot and a guy's waiting to a 2 count to kick out. No, it's okay to kick out on a 1 count, and that even goes into guys being afraid 1, 2, 3, and not kicking out right after the 3. Depending upon the match and the story you guys told throughout that match, a guy can put you down and pin you 1, 2, 3, but after it's exactly after that 3 count happens, you can get your shoulder up. You're just a second too late. Those are two things that drive me nuts. Don't be afraid to put yourself in those positions. Guys that are afraid to make themselves look vulnerable. Like, it's okay. You don't have to look the strongest. I hate guys that are always like, well, I gotta get my shit in. I gotta look strong. Dude, I'm to the point where I can give you 5 moves. Five moves. I can do a whole lot more in a wrestling ring than what I do right now, but I don't need to. I absolutely don't need to because that's not what the business of the match needs or dictates.
Yeah.
I can go to the top rope and do stuff off the top rope. I can do this. I can take every bump that you need me to take. Do I do them all? No, because the story that we're telling doesn't dictate that. And when I try to tell guys that, some guys get angry or butthurt about it when I tell them, well, I'm not taking this. I'm not doing it that way. If you want to get there, we can get there, but let's try to do it this way. Vulnerability. Guys being afraid to be vulnerable in wrestling. Being overprotective of their character. And who they see their character as.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's definitely a lot. Willie says he used to bump his ass off when he wrestled, And then C Red also says one of Backwoods pet peeves is people not wanting to pay him his price.
That yes, absolutely, absolutely. Pay me the money that I am worth, because when I go out there and give you the whole presentation, it is worth that price, because I'm not just going to go out there and half-ass it. I don't. I pride myself on giving people quality. That again, that goes back to what we talked about earlier. That shot caller moniker. Like, I call myself this, so I have to present and represent a certain image and presentation. So that's what I'm going to give you. So when I ask for my price, give me what I'm asking for.
Mm. And we've talked about that last month too, about like, some they don't want to do that. They think, either they're trying to save money or the gate is low or anything like that. But it's just like, if you know your worth and you know your price, then you keep it. And
Yeah.
you respect that person who spent that time to drive out there, however they got out there and stuff. You call yourself the shot caller for a reason. You're
Yep.
going to get your money's worth. And it's just like, if you have to be like that as a promoter or a booker, then you don't need to run a company if that's contingent on that, because you need to talk to workers and stuff beforehand about pay and things like that. You can't just like, oh, I'm gonna change my mind when they show up. Like, that's horrible.
Yeah. If we agree to something, that is what I'm expecting, because I'm to the point now where if I'm not taking a booking, there are a million other things that I could be doing with my time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I don't I don't have to wrestle. Like, wrestling, I love wrestling, and wrestling is great, but like, I got a family and I got a life outside of wrestling. And so time I'm not wrestling is time I could be spending with my family.
Yeah. And I think some people need to understand that and respect that, especially if they message you about pricing and stuff like that. You know, most of the when I reach out to people, I do ask the price, and then we work our way from there and things like that. And it's like, people can attest to, their money is in an envelope before I even get to the venue. It doesn't matter about the gate, doesn't matter
Yeah.
about merch sales and things like that, because reputation is a big thing. You get
It
what I'm
is.
saying? And my thing is, if I always have to wait, or if anybody has to wait on the gate to pay the wrestlers who spent their energy, their time away from family, away from work, some people times use vacation days and stuff like that. We get paid, but still, we could have used that for another time to be with family and things
Yeah.
like that. You have to respect people that do these kind of things and pay them what they ask for, or talk to them, negotiate. Some people negotiate, some do not. And it's very important as far as like the business, and that's why people always say like the business is dying because of bad practices and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I agree, man. Like, that's why when promoters reach out to me, the first thing we talk about is the first message I send back when they ask me about availability. Well, if I'm available, yes, but this is my date. I mean, this is my rate, and then if I have to drive X amount of time, this is what I'm expecting on top of my pay. Like, this it's a business. Like, I've taken time to and years to build my brand up and build myself up. So this is what I'm expecting.
yeah, it's I could go all day about it, because being a wrestler, worker, and promoter, I see all the sides, and then you don't even have to be on either side to just understand what bad business is. C Red says classic pet peeve is people that don't know what time is call time. Yeah, man. Yeah. um I love the guys that I book, and you're definitely going to be on there. We definitely got to get something, but sometimes people will legit ask when it's call time and still don't show up on call time.
Yeah. If I got a call time, I show up at the call time. And if something happens where I'm gonna be late, I let the promoter know, like, hey, I know this is call time, but life happens, work happens. This is when I'll be there, but I'm all about communication.
Yeah, communication. And I've always said communication is key because sometimes us knowing how people cut corners. Oh, you don't show up to call time. You show up late because you don't want to help with anything, or you may not, you're trying to skip that, or you may not want to tear down, or you may not want to do certain things. But communication is definitely key. I remember it was a dang near bad snowstorm in January, and I had to go to a Now That's Wrestling show, and it's usually a 3 hour and 30-minute drive for me. It wound up being like 6 hours because the ice on the road and things like that. But I still let them know, hey, I'm running late because of this, and they understood. And usually when I do make it, they ask, even if it's hot outside, how was the drive and things like that. Like communication. I'm not saying that you have to be there 100% because things do happen, emergencies, car goes out, things happen. It's just that you always have to be clear about it. And if you are a main one that asks about call time and you never show up for call time, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, I'm real big. I've done a bunch of shows where the weather has been crap, and I'm like, hey man, I'm on my way, but weather's bad, so I'm delayed. But I'm always constantly communicating with the promoter, saying, hey, I'm on my way. I might be late because of this, that, and the other, but there's always that communication.
Yeah. I'm going to go to David's question because this is like one of the last few questions I usually ask. Who is your dream opponent?
Well, my main dream opponent, it can't happen
Okay.
because he is no longer with us. My number one dream opponent would be Dusty, just because I would love to get in there and lock up with the American Dream. Uh, Currently, there are a couple guys, Minoru Suzuki, because I grew up watching a lot of Japanese wrestling. Um, that's where I really grew my love for big man wrestling, like watching Stan Hansen and Vader and Terry Gordy and Bam Bam Bigelow. So Minoru Suzuki, I'd put on that list. Ishii, I would put on that list. Nakamura, I put on the list because, I'm all about strong style. I've been in the ring with Dustin Rhodes, but we didn't get to work a match.
Okay.
So I'd put Dustin on that list. Maybe, God bless it. The closest that I've gotten to work like a dream opponent was Ken Anderson.
Okay.
Because I was a real big Ken Anderson fan when he was really hot, winning Money in the Bank and all that type of stuff. So I got to work him, and I was very, very happy with that match. But currently, right now, if I had to break it down to guys that are working in pro wrestling, I'll make it easy. On TV, I'll to the two companies. Keith Lee would be one for AEW and WWE. A dream opponent would be maybe a Cody and a Ricochet, because I have such great chemistry with smaller guys, because I can anything a smaller guy wants to do, I can do with a smaller guy. I don't like working a lot of other big guys, because a lot of times, in a fan's perspective, the matches are slow and boring because you're working another big guy. You don't want to be bumping a whole lot. It's not going to be a whole lot of slams, this, that, and the other. So I would give me a Cody and a Ricochet, and NXT. We can go NXT too. Give me give me a Wesley, and Carmelo Hayes.
Those are good. I would definitely pay to see all of those matches and things like that. And it's just like, because you tell stories, you tell great stories, and it's just like you said, it's not just about being like one sided. It's not even about being even, if that makes sense. It's just about telling stories, believability, storytelling, aspects that I see that I don't want to say is lost, but people don't care for. And I'm talking about wrestlers. Yeah, the fans would love it, but yeah, those were pretty good. Mark Reconcile says Mark Reconcile versus Backwoods.
Oh, brother. I tell people all the time, a lot of people say they want the backwoods smoke, but then we get in the ring and then they realize they don't want the backwoods smoke.
Yeah, he says it was supposedly gonna happen back in the IUWA days. So
hey, I don't know about that. Nobody reached out to me back then.
But he says he'll definitely take the smoke.
Again, we'll go in the category of guys that say it, and then the bell, as I always say, then the bell rings.
And then Jay says, "Hell yes, Backwoods Brown rules." So you get a lot of love, and then and I'll say it too. Like it's always love when I talk to you about wrestling, about a lot of things. Like I said, we talked for hours last time in July. We talked for hours and stuff like that, and we was just talking about what we wanted to do, the business, things that happened from people that weren't carrying themselves the right way, and we talked for hours about it. So it's just like I said, it's always cool to talk to a guy about wrestling, about a family, about personal things, and then it's just like I always try to keep that in the locker room. I don't like telling everybody what we do and what we say, because with everything so exposed, that locker room is something that we should just keep to ourselves. And I've said that publicly because, and it's the honest truth. We need to keep something,
Yes, I fully agree with you. And as everybody viewing the podcast right now can see, I am changing shirts because I do have an event to go to.
Okay. Yeah, Mark says much respect for him, and then C says nut shots.
No, that's a whole nother conversation right there.
I got you. Okay, one more question, then we'll close it out. What was your best moment in wrestling? Your top favorite moment, the best moment that has ever happened to you?
Oh, man, top moments. I can give you one. For me personally, for me, I've done so many shows over my career with Al Snow. And Al is, and anybody knows Al Snow, Al's one of the best trainers in professional wrestling, such a great wrestling mind. And I would always do shows with Al, and Al would always tell me I'm the shits. Like, I'm terrible, this, that, and the other. You're the worst. And then it was the Blizzard Brawl where C-Red managed me. And the match before us went short, and I was working Val Venus. And Al and Doug Basham, right before we went out, because they were the agents, said, "We need extra time out of you." And I was like, yeah, no problem. I looked at Red and said, "Hey, man, they need extra time." And he was like, cool. So I go tell Val Venus this, and Val was like, "Brother, this is the first match I've had in a while. I'm going to be blown up just walking to the ring." And I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I got you." We go out there and have this match, and Val was blown up a couple minutes into the match, and put him in a rest hold, and I tell him, "Don't move until you're ready." We go out there and have this really good match, and after the match, we go in the locker room, And now I was like, you know what, kid? This is the first time you didn't suck. And since then, I've gotten the chance to work Al twice, and no complaints. Al was 100% happy with everything we did, was very complimentary. And for me, that was like, all right, I guess I am okay. I'm not terrible.
Yeah. That's dope. That's dope. So I don't want to keep you for any longer because you have a place that you have to be, but I am first and foremost honored again and grateful that you spent a little time with Classic Alpha to talk about wrestling, how you got started and things like that, stuff about the big men and things like that. As far as C3 Ultimate Wrestling goes, our door is open for you. We got to get it together. My wife is excited.
Yeah.
I told you I sent you what she said,
Yeah, I do.
So,
and I will tell you this, I am all, and this goes out to everybody on the C3 Wrestling roster, I am all for coming in, and that's a pretty belt.
Yeah.
That is a pretty belt. And
it is nice.
I am the collector, and I have no problem adding that title to my collection.
It is a pretty dope belt. It's very nice. I mean, yeah, it's dope. But you will definitely see Backwoods at C3 Ultimate Wrestling in 2024.
Yes.
So
I will be there.
Yep. So Jay says he didn't have singles for you when you took your shirt off. Then he also says that we are awesome. And Sir Jay, you are an awesome person. I talk to you in the locker room about things, family, fatherhood, and things. So very awesome. So C Red, he says he's taking the belt in the Battle Royal in October. And I'll show October. So
Red don't want that smoke. If I'm coming to C3 Wrestling, I don't go to any promotion without my eye being set on being champion.
So we'll see. So once again, sir, Mr. Backwoods Brown, sir, like I said, our friendship and brotherhood runs for a while. Like, man. And we like I said, we can talk for hours about wrestling and a whole bunch of other things. And I told my wife when I got home last month, I was like, man, that dude, he's always been like an awesome guy. And we've just talked about things and random things and how the fans wanted the match and how even it was like 5 minutes and they were satisfied. You know what I'm saying? It's been a long time since I had a 5-minute match.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
And you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it was fun and the crowd loved it and things like that. It was only a few matches because a lot of stuff happened with the rain and it worked. And I've always said there's always a difference between wrestlers and workers. And, I'm just out here just trying to show people what's the difference, So once again, thank you for the opportunity. Y'all, man, if y'all don't know about Backwoods, bro, just type in YouTube. Type in his name on YouTube, Facebook. Look at his matches. Look at how great of a guy, great of a wrestler he is, a worker, one of the greatest big men in not only just the Midwest, but in professional wrestling. A person that cares about the business, cares about selling a size and believability and psychology. As that's getting more rare, this is a rare wrestler right here, the shot caller, Backwoods Brown.
I appreciate it, man.
No problem, man. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful and blessed evening. This is Chris Classic. Let's take it home.